maybe 10, 15 years best case, we might get nuclear in Norway. If it takes more, then maybe more. But like right now, it just seems inevitable that we get nuclear in Norway, just a matter of time.
Just because the facts are A, if the narrative is B and everyone believes the narrative, then B is what matters. But it's our job in our industry to speak up proudly, soberly, and to engage people in this dialogue. Those 2.5 billion people that are in energy poverty, they need us.
America cannot meet this threat alone.
If there is a single country,
of course, the world cannot meet it without America.
that is willing to
We're going to need you, the next generation, to finish the
overhaul
job.
nuclear regulation
We need scientists to design new
and
fuels.
focus on net public
We
benefit
need engineers to invent new technologies. We
over absurd levels of radiation
need
protection,
entrepreneurs to sell those
then
technologies.
we will march towards this.
We need workers to operate assembly lines that hum with high-tech,
We
zero-carbon
have
components.
unlimited prosperity for all humans.
We need diplomats and businessmen and women and Peace Corps volunteers to help developing nations skip past the dirty phase of development and transition to sustainable sources of energy. In other words, we need you.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Fire to Fission podcast. My name's Mark Heinemann, and I'm joined today by two awesome guys in Norway. We've got Mathias Meyer and David Harestad. These guys helped start. We got the chairman and you said board member of essentially Friends of the Climate for Nuclear Power in Norway. And I'm not going to try and pretend like I didn't pronounce this, but it's a tongue twister. How do you pronounce it, guys?
Klimavenner for Kjernekraft.
Oh man, it's awesome. But we're here at ONS, which is Offshore Northern Sea Oil and Gas Conference. We had some stuff for nuclear at the conference for the first time ever. 50th time or 50 years that they've been doing this conference. And,
50, yeah.
so I'm sure we'll talk about that. Can't wait to talk about your guys' organization. It's like the leading nuclear organization in Norway, pro-nuclear group. So before we get into all of that, I want to learn a little bit about you guys. What's your background? How'd you get your start? What you've been doing led you to this? Let's start with you, Mathias.
Sure. So I started negative towards nuclear. Everything I learned in school was negative, like all my teachers, the curriculum, like the books, how we discussed in the classroom, the news I read. I didn't get one single pro argument for nuclear for school. And then I went to high school, and then I did I took physics high level, like a science high school. And then I started to learn about the nuclear. And then I thought, this is just an engineering problem. Like the physics is not that complicated. It's like a way to cook water. So I was part of the biggest climate organization in Norway. And then because I cared about climate and taking care of the nature and animals and the lands of indigenous people. But then I thought we need an organization just for nuclear because all the other climate organizations are against nuclear. So we need to start our own organization. So then we're a group of people. Me and David started doing demonstrations outside all the big cities in Norway. And it took over a year before we met each other, just talking daily on the phone or texting. So and this happened during Corona. So then it kind of worked great to just coordinate having people all over Norway. So it was us and two other guys. And then we just started rolling, and now years later we're about 1,000 members. So, but Norway is a small country. For us, that makes us actually one of the bigger climate organizations in Norway.
That's awesome. What did you do before you started this? I guess you started as a student, or were you working before this? Or?
Yeah, so I lead this while I'm studying economics. I'm the young guy in the NGO, but all the other people, we had one guy who worked at a nuclear plant. We have some professors and people doing PhDs and different kind of backgrounds from different political parties and different. I'm the dumb guy. I'm doing econ. but all the other people like doing hard science, I'm more focusing on like the political aspect, and then the others have like all the technical knowledge.
Dumb, but economics are things actually get done, right? Like people to make money and that stuff for it to actually get done, get across the finish line. Yeah. Okay, David, what about you?
Well, economics is not that dumb because that's what I just studied as well. Well, yeah. Well, my background is more of an environmental background. I was engaged in the Green Party in Norway, and I had a couple of friends that told me that nuclear is awesome. And before that, I was more agnostic towards it. I didn't really know that much about it. And then I read up, and then I more or less understood that, okay, we're going to be real about the climate situation. We need the best tools we have. And right there and then I landed on it. So yeah, I decided more or less to switch my focus from broader green politics to more focus on nuclear energy. So yeah, we found each other on the internet. I think it was Stand Up for Nuclear. Yeah. So
Like in a WhatsApp group? Or on
So like an American called Mark Nelson.
hi, Mark.
Yeah.
Come on. Thank you.
Thank you. They had like a big international movement called the Stand Up for Nuclear. So we just joined up then. We're Stand Up for Nuclear Norway, and then we became like a more Norwegian thing.
So yeah, he arranged the demonstration in Oslo, pro-nuclear. I arranged the first one in Stavanger. And from there on, the ball started rolling.
Do you live in Oslo and you're
Yeah.
in Stavanger?
I live in Stavanger, yeah.
We're in your city.
Now we're in my city.
Yeah, we're in your city. That's a good segue. So, David, tell us a little bit about ONS is and the background and the history.
Oh,
and
man.
what it means for Stavangers, for the world to know.
Well, I told him that I feel bad wearing a suit. And I kind of do.
What do you mean, like to ONS or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've never.
I mean, yeah, we're wearing jackets and you're wearing a sweatshirt over here. I like
Yeah,
it.
now I am because sort of, well, I had to wear sort of a dinner on Monday, but still, when us in Stavanger, well, it's been around a couple of years now, and I would say it's a mix of people being proud, but also a bit like, Scandinavian janteloven. You're not supposed to think that you are anything, and if you have a lot of money, you're not supposed to flaunt it around. But it's a mixed vibe. But in the big scheme of things, I think it's awesome because it shows how this state and this part of Norway, not only this part of Norway, but in general, has understood that you work really hard to get shit. And you also need to innovate. So
Because high level, what is ONS? I mean, it's an oil and gas conference.
yeah,
But
yeah.
how big is it? Do you know any of these stats?
Yeah, it's 60,000 people now, I think. I don't know how many companies, but I would guess 100, maybe more, maybe 1,000. Not certain about the 1,000, but I guess 500 companies around that.
And it is very big. It's
Yeah. And I would say, growth of the festival it is a testament to the success of what we've managed to do here. So we're both proud, but, also aware of what it takes.
I was very impressed with the conference walking in. Yeah, the scale and the technology and everything has gone into it. It's obvious that it's been here for a while and it's very popular, but yeah, it's a big deal in Norway.
But it's also really cool with the whole Monday they was not only produced, but the program.
So let's talk about that. Had they ever included nuclear? Well, so they started including renewables, I believe, in 2020 or 2022. They do it the conference every 2 years, right? But they never included nuclear before now.
Yeah, we learned on Monday that the guy that had the event on Monday that they wanted to do nuclear 2 years ago, and then they said it was too controversial. And now 2 years later, they was like super energetic about it. Like they even called the Nuclear Monday the first day of the conference. So lots of things have changed. Like when we started our organization, we were like the strange guy in the corner of the room. Like everyone think we were lunatics. But now it's the opposite. Like everyone think lunatic if you're not yet. People are starting to think like you're unserious if you just dismiss nuclear entirely. So even like the anti-nuclear people in Norway, they have like changed their stance to more open, like other sources might be more economical, but they're not against nuclear. They have like changed their stance to that from like just being categorically against.
Follow up on what you're saying, the shift has also been monumental. 5 years ago, nuclear was the least popular energy source already. Now, the most popular energy source, and we don't have it. We have like reactors. So we've seen the change. I would say I'm working with the change, and it has been amazing to observe. And I'm also, just be aware that it works. Yeah, it works. Works. I don't know, spreading the word and sending mails, creating arrangement. You have to be. I don't know. We were talking to Mark about this, and other countries are struggling with how they're supposed to spread the word, how they're supposed to organize. And I think maybe was a shot of luck because we were able to organize online quite fast. And from there, it spread organic.
And people are like looking for something to do. That people just spent their free time that they suddenly gained towards their organization. Like we had lots of people, really good people, just spending lots of their free time just fighting for us on the internet and doing stuff.
And still are, keyword warriors doing a great job.
Well, let's talk nuclear in Norway. Norway doesn't have any nuclear power plants and not even a research reactor anymore. That's kind of peculiar, isn't it? Because wasn't Norway one of the first countries or the first country to have a functional nuclear reactor in Europe, at least?
We were the sixth best country in the world to have a reactor. And after that, we've had 4 reactors, the sixth. So, and we had like a world leading people like in certain aspects. So we had a lot of knowledge on it. And there's also a center in Halden where like people all over the world comes there to like train in order to operate a nuclear plant.
Use their simulators.
Yeah, and that's kind of strange. Like people in Norway say, "Oh, we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the competence to run nuclear plants," but apparently have the knowledge to train others to run them. So I don't really think that the argument works, but you still hear it a lot that we don't know stuff about it.
It's bizarre. A recurring theme that I heard when I talked to people this week at the conference was, I love nuclear, but it's not popular. It's not politically popular. It's not politically safe. Talk to me about how that's transformed over time and where the momentum's headed.
So there's a generational shift, like people under 40. So we have a poll from 15 to 40. They're like super pro-nuclear. People over 40 is like the opposite. They're like, lots of people are against it. So, and also like in the political parties, they have like a youth wing. A lot of the youth wings are pro-nuclear. Like the adult wing, the real party are often against. So that's definitely a shift there.
I would like to follow up with, we were also a bit lucky, considering the resistance in Norway against wind power. Right? Because
talk about that. What's the story there?
Well, it's almost like a perfect storm, say, because we started the organization. We were thinking like, okay, what's the smartest thing we can do? And we realized that we could hack the hate against wind power in Norway, which, to me, it's kind of sad because I'm pro where it's smart to put them up, right? Like, just don't erase nature. Use places for industry and such. But in Norway, the hate is really, really strong. So we provided like an alternative. So, okay, I understand you hate. I understand that you hate wind power. What about nuclear, right? So we did that, and I think we were really lucky because without that, we would probably have had the momentum we've had in this. So that was luck. And I guess the rest was hard work.
So what has been the work? Tell me about the organization. I know you guys said you were kind of doing stuff separately, but what were some of the first things that you did to get started? And then how's it been built?
Well, the social media thing came more or less organically. So we had some people
And is that Facebook?
Yeah,
Twitter?
yeah, it's all the usual suspects. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were blessed by having keyboard warriors that decided to spend their time fighting and being online on Twitter and their accounts and just spreading news all the time.
So do you guys have like a shared Twitter account?
Yeah.
Multiple people could post. And
Yeah, like our page, our organization has like an official page, and then we had like lots of people just being doing the keyboard work.
They're not paid at all. They just want
Yeah, we're all volunteer run. No one of us gets money. Like, yeah, just idealism.
and so they go out to kind of public forums or engage in discussion on any social media platform.
And then we started working on our visibility, our marketing. There's a political gathering in Norway called Offshore. That's where we blow our budget. It's like a political week. We'll come and discuss politics, talk to all kinds of organizations. We were there, and we've been there 4 years. So,
And it's a really small city, like basically, and they might be angry if I say it, but like a small village. And then, but all like the important people, all the politicians and business people go there. So like at the cafe, at the store, you always meet like the important people. And then we have like a booth, bring out these posters. And yeah, basically just every time recruiting a lot of members and doing events. The events we had, they were like packed that people were like rejected at the door to get into some of them.
and also during this week, we also saw development in this court here. People were a bit against, I would say more against in the beginning. And now this year, I didn't meet a single person that was against me. I met one person who was a bit skeptical, then I would say to him as well.
And the arguments they used,
Yeah.
and the arguments they used also changed a lot. Like when we started, we heard a lot of nuclear is dangerous, like kills people, like Chernobyl, all those arguments, and we don't really hear those anymore. Like right now, it's more a discussion about what is the fastest way to net zero? Is it renewables? Is it and then they're against nuclear and say nuclear is like slow and expensive. So that's the arguments we hear now, and we didn't really hear the other arguments anymore.
And I would say that we're about to move into a territory where the one argument is the final argument. Norway comes to where it costs. And I would say that's where it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be about safety and all these things.
Yeah, then it's the market solving.
And that's where the discussion should.
As economists, do you guys have a perspective on the cost or a view on how it becomes less expensive?
Well, I think that like I don't have a personal stake in nuclear, so like we don't gain any money for it. So if some other technology, which is like clean and takes care of nature, wins instead, like I would say that this is a win. But my perspective is that nuclear is the only way to both have stable power and save nature to create green energy. But if there's some other technology, then sure.
How do things get cheaper in other industries or what? I mean, it's like supply and demand, right? Like we increase supply of nuclear power and demand stays flat, then cost should come down.
Well, that's what they want to do with the small modular reactors.
Yeah.
Mass produce.
Build more of them,
Yeah.
make them cheaper.
Right. Which is really interesting because the energy consultants in Norway, they are telling the politicians to take it easy and wait, like Poland, to start building. This actually works.
Yeah.
So that's stay right now.
I think at some point you probably get like streamlined conveyor belt production of SMRs, but that might take some time. So in the meantime, my personal opinion is that Norway should build like the ordinary nuclear reactors. And then once the SMRs come, like that will be an no-brainer, just compete on cost. But yeah, that might take some time. So I say that we should use the technology we have now, build as much as possible of that, and then simultaneously in parallel we can also like develop other technologies.
Okay. We'll talk a little about the future towards the end. Tell me about the brochure, the poster that you guys have been handing out. You guys have Maddie Hilly here.
Yeah.
It's their waste, which is awesome. We're saying next to some casts, some dry casts. I grabbed one of these, and I mean, it's super sexy. It's got like everything that you could need, but I can't read it because it's in Norwegian. I could see Google Translate.
Actually, yeah, you know, our movement right now is filled up with awesome people who want to work. We're really lucky. We know a designer in our board.
And he has like made art for lots of very famous games that probably a lot of you have played. So yeah, he makes the artwork for some big stuff, and then we got like a picture. You might not see it. It's like Maddie that you mentioned, and she has like her children in her stomach being pregnant next waste containers. And when we show that to people, it makes such a impactful, emotional story. Like, she's a nuclear advocate. She knows it's safe, and she's willing to prove it with like her own offspring. So
we made a roll up with her, like a
Yeah.
roll up with her right next to
Yeah.
yeah.
And when people see it, it's like so profound. I also joke that if I got a few extra fingers and extra hand, it might be useful for pianos. Might be some
Do you
extra.
play piano?
I'm trying to learn. Like this summer, I started trying to learn it. So, right now, I can read the notes and then play a few easy songs, but I'm working on it.
Awesome. It's fun. Stick with it. Okay, yeah. So that's, I mean, 1,000 members, like you said, that's non-trivial. Norway's 5 million people-ish. I mean, it's about the same size as Colorado, or what Finland has about 5 million people. I think about
A bit less, yeah.
a bit less, yeah. But for 1,000 members for a new grassroots organization, that's not bad. But you guys are looking to grow. How do you see that happening? If people want to get involved, how do they find you?
So that's interesting because, you know, the challenges of this movement. I would say the first and foremost challenge in the movement is it's all gross. The nuclear grows, especially in Norway, which is kind of annoying. So for any movement or anybody who wants to do anything like this, you need to make sure that it's small within double, triple membership. That's my thing.
Yeah, we should have had Liz interviewing you instead. A mistake on my part.
So that's probably the most important thing. Yeah. You can make things happen with guys as well, of course. You manage. I think the growth potential way higher.
Get more women involved.
Yes, sir.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, like we're the nuke bros, so we need to broaden out.
What did you guys think of the nuclear sessions this week? You mentioned at some of the panels that you'd been to before, you saw growth, and it was like kind of standing room only. The sessions at ONS, what was your takeaway, your feedback from the nuclear sessions that you had attended?
Well, we attended the one day. That was one. Well, it's a bit like I said earlier. I was glad because there was one guy who was not a pro-nuclear guy. Well, he was open to it, but his landing argument was that you guys need to prove that the investor will get something back. And yeah, that, to me, it's proof that the discussion has moved, right? So yeah, maybe this guy would have said the same thing 5 years ago, but now it's more or less in the open, right? It's like the discussion is about the investment and CAPEX and the OPEX, where it shouldn't be waste or how dangerous potential could be. So that was really cool from that talk to see this, because his perspective wasn't negative. It was, this is interesting, prove that it's valuable to me, then it could work, you know. So that was really powerful.
You just mentioned a dinner. You got dressed up for a dinner on Monday night. What was the event?
So yeah, that was really cool. Like when we started a few years ago, sometimes we had like some Americans over to Norway, then we were just a small amount of people having a dinner together. And now it was like 50 people from all kinds of industries. And some of the people attending, they were people that a few years ago would probably be too kind of controversial for them to attend in, like, considering the jobs, like people outside the people from other energy and industries. But now it's becoming more accepted, so people from all kinds of life are able to be interested in nuclear. So, so yeah, we had the dinner together, and then people from, and when you just meet people from all kinds of industries, they're looking at nuclear from individual angles. So I noticed like old people, you seem like the old people seem really good at like actually executing stuff. And a nuclear plant is only like 5% nuclear. All the other stuff is stuff they know well from oil, like pipes and steam and concrete, like all those processes. So there's like a private company in Norway that wants to be nuclear in Norway, and they're coming from an oil background. So that's interesting to see. And that one struggle we have had is like the climate organization in Norway are very against nuclear. So all is 50%. That's a bit strange. That like me being active in other climate organizations, they always saw against nuclear, but and then I meet people from all industry, they're pro-nuclear. So I think, unfortunately, climate organizations are usually maybe one of the hardest people to convince to be pro-nuclear. Even though that's my reason for nuclear, for climate and nature. So
Well, we could follow up on that because, we did this summer visited like a youth organization really in like, how you say, like taking care of the nature. They're environmentalists. And
they're the biggest.
they're the biggest youths in Norway. We went to their summer camp because nuclear power was one of their virtual topics. It was the European Union and nuclear. And this again goes back to what he says about how society have opened up to the idea. When we came to their camp, we befriended some of the people there, and they were like, "Oh, I love nuclear. I saw the Chernobyl show, and I understand that nuclear now is a good idea. It's a good technology, and it's going to save Mother Nature." Like, that would never happen in years. So us being invited there is just another change in society. But it's also really important work because, these people, if we make them understand how good nuclear potential for nature, then they will not start blocking themselves with change to the equipment when they're starting to build reactors, right? So, yeah. But we also talk to other organizations, of course, like political party, but also like, I don't know, for instance, I'm going to talk to some old people in a Rotary Club. So we talk to all kinds of organizations, not only environmentalists.
Yeah, we get like invited by all the parties to all over Norway to like hold presentations and be part of debates. So that's like the information work. Just like usually when I discuss nuclear people, it's often just a lack of information. Might sound a bit arrogant. I feel like if you can sit down and talk long enough, like break down kind of the fears and the stigma, then eventually I feel like people understand it's important. Like my family were super against nuclear, and when I want to be part of starting this organization, they advised me not to. So,
Are you sure?
yeah, but now they're like pro-nuclear. So basically, just it took some years to convincing.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a great anecdote about going to a youth camp and having a session that you can educate people and then seeing the change over time. I'll comment on the dinner on Monday night. I thought was awesome. I went also. You guys mentioned a few things, but I'll just say a few more. Like Baker Hughes was there, Halliburton was there. To call out some specific oil companies, there was a thorium reactor developer in Norway. There was a CEO that runs an oil company, and they're starting a nuclear company. There were investors, there were venture capitalists there. Awesome dinner. There's Mark Nelson's business partner, Richard Allington, was there. He helped organize it, right? Martin Yelmelon, that helped organize some panels and has been on the podcast before, was there. And Doug Sandridge, oil and gas for executives from nuclear. Right. Fun. It's an awesome dinner and awesome event. And it started as 12 people and then bloomed up to 43. So, I want to circle back to this idea of politics and how it changes, and how it changes in Norway. Because I'll give you guys some feedback on the stuff that I heard again this week. I'm curious on your thoughts on how it changes and how fast or how long it takes it to change, what it'll take to change. When I spoke to nearly everyone from executives at some of the largest oil companies in Norway, down to you know guys that were running some really small service companies, to everyone in between, they all said, nuclear, cool, love it. Politically, it's never going to happen. To which I said, don't you guys live in a democracy? Can't you, everyone I talk to says they like you, can't you vote like new politicians? So how does this change in Norway? Like what's the current state of affairs, and how do people in political power become pro-nuclear?
So in Norway, we have a bit different system than America, where you have like two-party system. We have like 9 parties in the parliament. And then
you get a part.
Yeah.
You get a part.
That could be worse. Could be Denmark.
Yeah. So and all those parties have different opinions, of course. So right now it's the Christian Democrats and like most right party. They're the most pro-nuclear, and then some kind of but you can see in a lot of countries like left-right divide, where left wing are more skeptical and right wing are more open to nuclear. This is starting to change. So right now the government in Norway is a neighbor, like left wing. They're quite against nuclear. But next year there's a new Congress election in Norway, and then it looks to be likely to be a much more positive parliament for nuclear. So we're working towards all the parties, like we both get invited or invite yourselves. We just people we meet, and then they want us to hold the presentation, be part of debates in all those parties, or we attend their conferences, just standing out flyers or having like a booth. So, and we've been invited to the general assemblies, like the national meeting for a lot of the parties now. So they're super interested in nuclear. And not a lot of people against nuclear. They just want to be more knowledgeable about nuclear. So maybe you can kind of guess they might possibly be more open, and then they want to learn to be part of the internal debate, but maybe they can't publicly say they're pro-nuclear. So then they just have like a lunch with us. So but like big things are happening. And one of the biggest changes is I feel like a lot of people against nuclear, they're starting to think the nuclear will come eventually, but right now it's popular. So they want a more open position where they don't want to be kind of on the wrong side of history. So they say, it's positive where they have it, and maybe it will come someday, but it will come too late in Norway. So they have like a more open out of it. So I guess that's the biggest change.
Well, I could add that, we asked a bunch of people when we started out for hints, like, how should we attack this problem? And we got some really solid feedback. Go for the grassroots in the big parties. Go for the grassroots movements, Like, for instance, the Labour Party, they have a ton of local clubs, right? So what happened with, for instance, the Labour Party was that they had a bunch of leaders in their different municipalities turning pro because of the who were uprising against wind power. So that's a really interesting thing, right? We went to the bottom, the grassroots parties, and they started working upwards. And his point about the Labour Party is very interesting because it's the leadership in that party who are against. So the same applies to a couple of other parties, and the base of the parties are pro. I would think that maybe now, 2024, this summer, there are probably 2 parties where the base is still against of 9 parties.
Yeah, I feel that's kind of
We
neat.
have 2 parties of the base.
Yeah, two
are
parties.
still anti-nuclear.
Yeah.
I guess I'm so ignorant about this. Do you need to have all the parties on board? Can
Used to
one
be- used
can
to
one
be-
party block
used
it,
to be
or do you just
one-
need a majority?
No, it's a democracy. So, yeah, so.
I mean, in practice, you probably need both a majority of the parliament, and it's having the people in the executive government, like the Secretary of Energy, like you say in America, Minister of Energy, probably quite important to be pro-nuclear. So, but yeah, I feel like our commitment to it is kind of unique where, like in other countries, you have like the government maybe wants to kind of force some kind of energy on the people, and then local people protest against the nuclear. But right now we're seeing the opposite, like this, right now about 80 counties in Norway that are interested in nuclear. Some of them have done like a referendum where they're pro-nuclear. And also multiple of them said they volunteer that they can take the waste. So, but then like the central government are against. So,
but it's really interesting to see the change because, like, for instance, the last party that had power, or I mean, the prime minister, our last prime minister, she was a bit against, and then her husband, bro, and then slowly things started working out. I'm not saying that only this guy's opinion was enough to change her, but she also saw the change in and within her own party. So
and then she came to propose herself in parliament, in the parliament to get more knowledge and kind of prepare Norway for nuclear.
Yeah, exactly. So from the grassroots, from the base and up. And it works every party, as long as the people.
I like that. So some of the strategies, I'll say back to what I heard, setting up flyers or having a flyer to hand out, right? Going to events, going to rallies. If there's somewhere that you can have a booth and like pass out information, getting people aware, I guess, is kind of getting people signed up for social media pages or newsletters, or like just being them aware of content. What else?
Probably like, I guess, I think we spent like less than 1,000. What do you think?
Yeah, and like we basically just store stuff in garages and everything. Is like we don't have an office, don't have anything, and people in Norway are just starting to become like quite pro-nuclear and like competitors that are against nuclear. They have like so many people and they have so much money to work against nuclear. So
like the one anti organization that 40 employees.
Yeah, and like for example, you have one that's working for renewables, and like as you said, like if you can do that without hurting nature, we're open to that. But they're suddenly starting to seem like to spend more energy against nuclear than like pro renewables. So like our rhetoric is just we need to take care of nature and commit the nuclear is the way to do that. We're not anti other people, but the other renewable organizations seem to spend a lot of resources just attacking us.
They have also changed their rhetoric the last couple of years, especially this year, because they've understood that the argument they're using, they don't work because people have understood and they've been informed of realities. So they've moderated themselves. They used to be nuclear is bad. Now they are. Nuclear provides the source of energy, but it costs.
Right. In the U.S., I would say there's been a big shift in the past 2, 4, and 6 years. Like if I think back on the rhetoric around nuclear, and it's just been growing in momentum. Like the momentum's been growing continuously. But these things take time. It takes time, but then before you know it, you've got politicians coming out with referendums or new bills or new legislation proposals that are meant to help the industry, and they get behind it. Given the momentum that you guys have seen since you started, and then now nuclear and ONS, and how long until you start to see some of that coming out of the Norwegian Parliament? What do you think?
I could start by telling a funny story because it was a populist party in Norway. They're on the right side of politics. They've been pro for a while. But they came out and said, if we're going to build nuclear, we should have it Statoil. Statoil being Equinor, old name for Equinor. And it was built in a way where the state has the ownership. And it's really interesting to see that this argument comes from this right-wing party, right? Which which
Yeah,
is
normally they'd be all private, free market.
yeah. So all of a sudden you have that argument as well, right? You have Musk's Norwegian nuclear power saying that we want to build without subsidies, and then all of a sudden you have a populist party saying, well, if we're going to build nuclear, why don't we just build it really good, really big, and follow the good old stoplight model, which is actually a heavy hitting argument in Norway from on both sides of the word.
I think we kind of had the perfect win there because we were starting kind of the grassroots movement where like local capitalists want it, and the central government being quite unpopular for other reasons, being against, the kind of abuses even more. And that's like a contrarian effect. And now we might get a really pro-nuclear government next year. So then you maybe have both. A few decades ago, the government actually wanted, like in the 70s, they wanted to be nuclear in Norway. But then they were like, the opposite, where the center wanted, but like local people were against. And then it took some time to kind of find the areas and to do the work there. And then at the same time, we suddenly found oil in Norway thanks to American South. So when we found oil, we just basically put nuclear on the shelf. But Sweden, our neighbor, they built nuclear. So I presume if we found oil just a bit later or started nuclear just a bit earlier, we would probably have nuclear just like Sweden does. So yeah, just some coincidences that made it so that we didn't get it. But now I think we're actually quite close to getting nuclear to Norway.
How close? 1 year, 5 years, 20 years? What's close? 6 months? When are these elections? When do we swap out these politicians?
10 years to be optimistic.
Okay. Yeah, like we new election next autumn, and then after that might get like a green light, and then you'll investors like right now there are multiple private companies wanting nuclear to Norway. We're just volunteer NGO, so we don't get any money from them. But like you have the Norwegian, you have 3 Norwegian companies wanting to be, and we also met at this conference lots of foreign companies that want to sell their reactors to Norway. So I think once they get green light, then it's basically bureaucracy taking to maybe give the green light. Maybe that takes a few years, and then also the companies that need to be nuclear might take a few years to just get it up. But as David said, maybe 10-15 years best case, we might get nuclear in Norway. If it takes more, then maybe more. But like right now, it just seems inevitable that we get nuclear in Norway, just a matter of time.
It's also kind of hard to predict the future, but there are a bunch of people with money are a bit skeptical of nuclear in Norway, but they're more optimistic when it comes to the concept of building nuclear-powered ships. So that might be an industry in the future. I don't know.
I discovered that project recently. I'm hoping to have that guy on our podcast, the guy that's been in charge of that program. I had lunch with him when I was in Allison last week.
You did?
Oh.
So
we down? Yeah, they have like a big research project on nuclear ships.
It's awesome. I can't believe I met him in Prague, actually. So yeah, hopefully we can get him to come on the podcast and talk about it.
Because that might be easier to sail than nuclear from land.
Well, I think with the work that you guys are doing, you're going to speed it up, and these politicians are going to get their act in gear, and you're going to start building some new projects in 2026, 2027. It's going to be awesome. But that one is 2030 that they expect to have a prototype of a ship that can be powered by nuclear, which would be awesome. Guys, this has been great. What else do you want to leave the audience with? How can people get involved? What do you need? What they want to help? What can they do?
We want to thank our American friends. Like you really helped us get the ball running. We just had like the idea and the energy, but we didn't have like the mental tools to get the movement going. So like our American friends really just teach us. Here's the arguments. Here's how when people say waste, when people say Chernobyl, they gave us like all this knowledge. All this knowledge to just learn, and then we learn from like, your best. We just start to spread the word in Norway, and now if you are a Norwegian listener, you can become I remember if you're from other countries, maybe you could consider build a nuclear plant in Norway. So, yeah, like Norway's energy history seems to be really influenced by Martin's Trust It All, and now with nuclear.
Yeah. Well, good, Matthias. And this has been great. Thanks for taking the time to chat. It's been a wonderful chat.